been a lonely road. It's people with me, still feel on my own. The days is blurred. It gets chaotic when I'm in that zone. These feelings flying. I push them down, but they keep growing up. Guess unlike me, one thing I say is I keep showing up. My hope is that.
Yo, what's up, YouTube? Back at you with another video on today. Got another prospect for the Texans on today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Make sure you hit the subscription button, subscribe to the channel, click the bell so that you'll be notified. And without further ado, let's get into it. All right, guys, this one player who could help the Texans out in this draft. Before his season-ending surgery, Kamal Hadden was one of the best players on the Volunteers. After a unique start to his collegiate career that saw him make a stop at community college, Hadden settled in with the Volunteers and finished his career with 87 total tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 12 passes defended, and 6 interceptions. Hadden has the necessary size to be an outside corner in the NFL, standing at 6'1", 197 pounds. But because of his injury, he may slip to the later rounds. But he is a value pick. He has a long frame and is well built with long arms. Hadden has the necessity skills to be an NFL cornerback. He has good speed and agility to stick with receivers downfield. Hadden is a very high IQ player with great ball instincts who can high point the football and make plays in the passing game. According to Pro Football Focus, Hadden was targeted 107 times and only allowed 54 receptions for 665 yards with 4 touchdowns. In the run game, Hadden shows a fiery competitiveness. He makes big hits on the ball carriers and he tries to dislodge the ball, which means that this player has a knack to be around the football and make plays on the football. And that's something that the Texans can definitely use in a young developmental corner on adding this guy in the draft. He is good at squaring up his shoulders and breaking down to make the big tackle. While he is a good athlete, Hadden is not technically refined and he gets too physical or he can get too handsy with receivers. In the NFL, you don't want to be getting too handsy with guys because that can cost you a lot of penalties and stuff like that, a lot of PIs, and you don't want to get all those PIs. But definitely, man, I think that Kamal Hadden is one of the best corners in this draft. And pound for pound, man, this would be a great dude for the Texans to be able to select in the later rounds. He must improve his footwork and get less handsy to survive in the NFL level. As previously I stated in this video, Hadden may fall in the draft due to his injury concern. He had an injury to his shoulder, but hopefully he's healed him from that and he'll be able to be used in the OTAs and things of that nature and in the training camps. But he is a unique talent, and he would likely be a first or a second rounder if it was not for his shoulder injury. So, man, it's a lot of things to like about Kamal Hadden. He's one of my favorite corners in this draft, and you always have to be able to sift through a lot of guys to get to your guy. And definitely, man, I think that Kamal Hadden could be a guy that the Tennessee, not the Tennessee Volunteers, I don't want to say the Volunteers, but the Texans could definitely use and add to this roster. You need to be able to get talent. I know they signed Jeff Okudah to a 1-year deal, but you got to have that guy alongside Derek Stingley. And I definitely think that Kamal Hadden is that guy that can be developed and get on the field and be your number 2 corner for you. He definitely, if he didn't get hurt, this guy, Kamal Hadden, would definitely be a first-round talent. That's how good he is. He was one of the best corners in the SEC, and we already know what people think about the SEC. Everybody thinks that the SEC is the best conference in football, but I beg to differ on them being the best because they don't really play any competition, really. They only play certain teams within the conference or whatever. LSU, they're pretty good, and Alabama, but every team in that conference. But I do believe that Kamal Hadden is one of those guys that you can develop, one of those guys that you can probably get in the 3rd or the 4th round, maybe the mid to late rounds, you can grab this guy. But at the same time, I know a lot of people say that the SEC, like I was saying, the SEC is the best conference when it comes to college football. And I kind of beg to differ on that. I don't think that the SEC is the best, but they do have some of the best players at certain schools. Not all the schools in the SEC are dominant schools. There's only a few teams that play in the SEC, like Georgia, LSU, Alabama, teams like that, they're dominant. And then now Texas is coming over to the SEC. They're dominant, but not everybody in that conference is dominant. So definitely, man, I love what Kamal Hadden brings to the table. And if you want to get this kid, I think he's a diamond in the rough. I think he's very well one of the best young corners in his draft. And you can develop this kid to be what you need him to be. And that's ultimately, at the end of the day, you already got your number one guy in Derek Stingley. You need Kamal Hadden to be your number two guy. He has the size, everything that you need. He can play zone. He can play man. And he brings everything to the table, man. So I love him as a later round pick, maybe in the third round, maybe the fourth. No later than probably the fifth round that you'll be able to get a guy like this. And the only reason why he's sliding down the draft boards is only because of the injury to the shoulder. But other than that, make sure you guys go watch his film, and I guarantee you guys, you're gonna like what you see on film with Kamal Hadden. He is the real deal, and the Texans would be wise if they put him on the big board as one of their corners to look at. So, all right, guys, leave it in the comments section, and I'll be back to you soon. Peace.
It's been a lonely road. There's people with me, still feel on my own. The days is blurred. It gets chaotic when I'm in that zone. These feelings flying. I push them down, but they keep growing up. Guess unlike me, one thing I say is I keep showing up. My hope is that one day I'll reach that point where things make sense.